9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, folks. I'm pleased to join you, and we're going to be talking about Angular today on our stream. I think it's a little bit different than usual. You may be used to React by now, but we're going to try out Angular a bit, and I have Gregory with me to explain the details.
Hey, how you doing?
All right. So I know we redesigned our website a few months ago, and I think that we have a section now under Angular called Responsive UI Templates. So I think, are you going to be making sense of that for us in terms of what there is there and how to get started with that?
Yeah, so for today, I thought we would jump over to Angular just for something different. And today, I'm going to kind of go over our templates and what we try to do with these templates. As you can see here on my screen, we're under this templates tag at the top of our site. And we have a number of different templates here that you can choose from. Today, I decided to just go with this first one and show how we can convert it into an actual app. And these templates are really cool
So just to
because,
clarify,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I just wanted to clarify. When you click on templates, there's actually two options. One's responsive application template, and the other one is responsive UI templates. So if you click on responsive UI templates, you get what you're looking at, right?
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the responsive application template is sort of our starter app, which I'll also be using. But that is,
Cool.
if I click on that, you can just see an example app.
Mhm.
Yeah, so for example, we have things like this user profile here. We have task lists with, lists, Kanban boards, a Gantt chart, all these cool different things. And today I decided to go ahead and make this contact list, use this template here. And this template is very cool. We added functions like exporting, importing, and all this stuff is part of our data grid actually. And as we've mentioned many times, the grid is very powerful. I'm sure some people are tired of hearing me talk about the grid, but it really is as good as it gets. So I thought I'd just talk about it one more time.
No,
And
I don't think that anyone's going to get tired of hearing that. I mean, everyone's using a grid in some sense.
yeah, and on this template page, you can either click on standalone app to view it by itself. We can, of course, also change themes. So you can see different themes and how it looks in different ways. Also, if I click on source code, we can see the Angular component for this template here. So for example, if I click on the HTML, we can see all the code here. And for today, I'm essentially going to be using a lot of this and drawing some inspiration from it to create my own version. And the coolest thing about these templates is they really are just ideas. And you don't really have to copy them verbatim. I'm not going to add some of the features. I'm going to add other ones, make it my own. And so, yeah. So to get started, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a new terminal window here. And I'm going to use our DevExpress CLI to create this new Angular app. And so I'm going to say npx devextreme-cli new Angular app, and we're going to give it a name of dx-angular-template-demo, and I'll just hit enter there. I'm just going to stick with the default. So I'm going to stick with the side navigation outer toolbar. And we'll give it a second. Install packages.
So while that's installing, I wanted to ask you, so because we're going to Angular now, are we going to have to rely more on TypeScript than before?
I'm going to be using TypeScript for this. I'm pretty sure you can create your own kind of app without TypeScript. But I think TypeScript is fine. And of course, with TypeScript, you can just type in any. So you can use it just about the same as JavaScript whenever it complains.
So comparing React to Angular, would you say you have to know more TypeScript to use Angular compared to React, or is it kind of a mix and match? Or
I'd say you probably need to know more about TypeScript to use Angular, just generally speaking. But with React, you could use TypeScript as well. So it's just really kind of your preference, I'd say. And how deeply you want to use the TypeScript features, that's again another choice. But anyway, I'm gonna go into this directory. I'll clear the screen. And as we can see, we have our app structure there. And before we start, I'm just gonna jump in here and gonna open it up into NeoVim. And the first thing I need to do, because I'm working on a remote server, is I need to just jump in here into the start script here and say --host is my local IP address. And if I come and start the app here, npm run start, we should be able to start this app. And in the meantime, I'll open up a tab here. And let's see what that IP address gave us. Oh, it still looks like it's still building this app. It's nice and slow, of course. But, you know, while we're still waiting, we'll jump back and look at some more of these.
so
Yeah,
is
go
it
ahead.
mainly taking the time to transpile? Is that what we're waiting for?
I believe it's just bundling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and now it's successful. So it's 40161. It's a nice weird port. Okay, and there we go. So here's our running app. And I can just zoom in a bit. And I've shown this before. And we just have some sample information in here. Some sample pages. And of course, we have our sidebar here. Everything is nice and formatted for us. And so if I go ahead and jump back into the code, and I'll jump into the source folder, into the app folder, we can see we have a number of files here that aren't what you traditionally see. For example, we have both the app-navigation and app-routing.module files. And we also have this unauthenticated and not authorized container. So this is to help with auth and authorization, of course. And we basically provide templating for all that, so it's easy to add login, that kind of stuff. And we also have this shared folder with shared components, a layouts folder where we have our two different toolbar options, whichever one you prefer, you can kind of just delete the other one. And we have our pages. And these are those 3 pages we have, this home, profile, and tasks pages. And what I want to do is I want to add a new page. And so the way I could do that is using the DevExpress CLI. So I'll just open the terminal quickly. And I can say DevExpress, and if you notice I didn't say npx DevExpress CLI, that's just because I have the DevExpress CLI installed globally here. But if you didn't, you can also just say npx DevExpress-CLI. And I'm going to say add view, and the view name, which is going to be contacts. And I'm going to specify an icon, which is going to be the group icon. So I'll go ahead and hit enter there, and that will build us a new page. And so as we can see here, we have this new contacts page here in this new folder with all of our files. And if we go into the HTML file here, we see we have our sort of some boilerplate in here. And if I jump back to our app, we see we have this contacts page here. And also we can add, if we want to add this contacts page, say to a particular folder, kind of like we have here, we can do that as well. And that's fairly simple. All we would have to do in that case is jump into our app-navigation. And here we can see this contacts that I just added here. And we can see this examples with that profile and tasks, and also of course the home page. And we can just move that around, modify it, it all works. So I'll close that for now. And I want to open up the TypeScript file for this as well, for this contacts page. But first, what I want to do is I kind of want to change the theme of this, just because I'm not the biggest fan of this. Plus, I kind of want to show off our new Fluent Design themes that we put out with our latest release. So to change themes in this sample template app, the way we would do that is we would come into this themes folder here. And there are 2 files in here, metadata.base.json and metadata.additional.json. Okay. So I'll go ahead and open up both of these files. And as we can see here, it says base theme is material.orange.light. So for our base theme, I thought it would be nice to use the Fluent theme. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to fluent.blue.dark. So I'll go ahead and save that. And also in this metadata.additional.json, we also have to change it here. So what this file is we can specify, for example, with this tree view, we can specify themes for individual components. So for example, if we wanted our data grid to not have a orange theme, we wanted to have a blue theme or something like that, we can modify them individually here. So that's just a nice, cool feature.
Just out of curiosity, I'm wondering if you know this. I don't know the answer to this, but if you use a theme builder to customize one of our themes, could you import it from here?
Yeah, absolutely. We have documentation that explains exactly how to do that. But luckily for us, our themes, we have lots of different colors, so it's pretty rare that I think the theme builder is honestly that necessary, because we just have so many options. But yeah, go ahead.
So just so I understand, like let's say like I want the grid in a dark color scheme, but I want like let's say the tree list in a light. Could I mix and match or that's not really possible?
Yeah, so we can create individual swatches for different components. So you can use the theme builder for that as well. But see how right here in the widgets it says tree view? If I had changed this, so let's say I say light here. And what I'm gonna do, so to change the theme, what we need to do is say npm build themes. And this is a script that we have that will basically just build the themes and generate all the CSS that we need. So I'll go ahead and stop the app and restart it. And we'll give it a second again. And we'll jump back. And decide to change the port on me. But as we can see here, see how we have the light theme on this tree view and the dark theme everywhere else? That's because I set it to light here when it applies to the tree view. So that's just one of those little customization features that we have. And I'll just go ahead and change it to dark, and I'll run npm run build themes again. And when we jump back, we can see it's now dark again. So that's nice right there.
So there was no rebuild necessary, just like it was instant.
Yeah, because I have the Fluent theme, I'm already using the Fluent theme. Sometimes I restarted the entire app when I changed from the material to the Fluent theme. I like to do that just so there aren't any lingering issues. But changing between color schemes, it's all fine because it's the same icon pack and all of that. So that's a nice little tip if you're having issues with that. You can just kind of restart it when you change between those sections of themes.
So those are, sorry to reiterate the same point, but so those are swatches, right? Or are the swatches things like the accent colors, or am I misunderstanding kind of what the swatch idea is?
So uh, if you want to see, let's try to find it. So if we go under UI customization in our docs, we can go to themes and styles, and we can go to styling methods. There's applying a theme. We can see different ways to add themes. We can see swatches here. So the way we could add swatches is by adding a div class here. We could use the DevExpress CLI again, where we use build theme and then choose a base theme, make a swatch. We can also use our theme builder here. So if you save as color swatch right here, this option here in the theme builder, it creates a swatch and you can export it, use it with our CLI, use it with our any of our templates really, whether it's Angular or React or Vue or jQuery, it all works pretty much the same way. So yeah, and we also have some information here about theme switching as well. So if you want to switch themes on the fly inside your app, we can do that as well. So yeah. And so what I want to do for today is I was thinking we just build this. And this is a fairly complicated grid. it's not as complicated as we can make it. With this, we have this functionality where it opens out from the side, and also it can be pinned. I'm not going to do that today because just we don't have the time, but what I will do is add some of the customizations that you see here. For example, we have these name customized where we have, it says the title down below here. We have this custom cell right here where it says salaried. We have this toolbar up here. So I'll be adding some of those features as well, just so we can see how it looks. And so jumping back to our code, we can start with this HTML file. Or actually, you know what, first, what I want to do is I want to create just a new file in here called contacts.ts, and in here I'm just going to create a array of objects here, and this is just some local data that we're going to be using. In our template GitHub page, we show how to connect to a data source. So if you want to connect to an external API, we show how to do that. In this case, I didn't want to needlessly make requests, so I just copied and pasted the JSON data from our demo. So it should be nice and simple for us. So I'll go ahead and save that file, and I'll close that. And in our contacts.component file here, what I'm gonna do is get rid of the init. We don't need that, but we are gonna need view child. We're gonna need the DX data grid component, and we're gonna need our contacts from contacts, just like this. And that's all we need there. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the on init because we don't need it. And I'm gonna go ahead and add our view child. And it looks like Copilot is adding it for me. So that's nice. And I'm gonna say data is equal
I think
to.
you have a typo.
Thank you. There we go. And this is just gonna give me an error because this data grid hasn't been used yet. So we can just ignore that for now. And yeah, that we're kind of ready to go there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and open up this div. And inside this div, what I'm gonna start with is just by adding our data grid. So I'm gonna say dx-data-grid. And I'm gonna give it an ID.
Wait a second, that's really impressive. How did you get all that?
What? All the Copilot stuff?
The suggestion.
I just
I
Copilot.
mean, that was really cool.
Here.
But it knows about DevExpress?
I think it's honestly, let me here. I'll go ahead and disable Copilot so we can, it won't bother us anymore. But the idea is, I've already written this, so Copilot's gonna do a lot better because I've already done it before. Plus, of course, it gets it from GitHub.
Okay, so
yeah.
So it's learning from your input. It's not necessarily pulling knowledge about DevExpress.
It kind of is. I mean, it can, if it's like it draws from GitHub and the web and all that. And so for this grid, I'm just going to add our data source of data, which is just that data variable that we created here. Right, so just that simple thing right there. I'm going to add some options here. I'm going to say column auto width is true. Filter row with the option visible true. Sorting, where the mode is multiple. So we're going to be able to sort multiple rows at a time. I'm going to set the height equal to 100%. And I'm going to add paging with some options, which are enabled true and page size is 10. And it's going to be our initial page size. And we'll go ahead and open this up. And it decides to reformat for me, which I don't want. But that's okay. So if we jump back to our app, oh, it's giving me a nice error there. We can ignore it. I'll go ahead and just comment that out for now. And as we can see here, we have all of our data in there. So yeah, but we have these, the ID column, and then this stuff is not exactly formatted right. As you can see, this phone number is formatted pretty poorly. But, all our data is in there, and that's usually the hardest part. So once we get that taken care of, it's pretty much smooth sailing from there. So what we're going to do is jump back. I'll go ahead and go back to the HTML. And I'm just going to add a couple things in here. I'm going to add the load panel. And I'm going to set it to false, just so we don't see it. I'm going to add the selection control here. I'm going to say the select all mode is all pages. Show checkboxes mode is always, and the mode is multiple. And this is just going to let us select our various, oops. And it looks like we're just gonna have to deal with the auto formatting for now. I was trying to get around that, but it's not gonna let me. But now, as we can see, we have this selection checkboxes here, and we can select more than one at a time. So that's basically what that selection is. And so now I'm going to add DXO dash sorting. Actually, we don't need to add it. We already added it up there. My bad. And we're going to say DXO dash paging. with a page size of 10, and I'm just going to add this again, even though I added it before. And I'm going to say DXO dash pager visible is true. I'm going to say allowed page sizes is equal to 5, 10, and 20. Show info is going to be true. Show navigation buttons is also going to be true. And finally, show page size selector and I don't know, just throwing it in there willy-nilly is going to be true. And that's it for the pager. So if I save that and we jump back, we see we have our pager here at the bottom where we have the ability to change the page size. And we could jump back with the arrows as well. So there we go. Very easy and very cool right there. So under this pager, I'm going to add the header filter, and I'm going to say, of course, visible true. I'm going to add the column chooser, and in this case it's going to be enabled is true. Oops. And we can just leave that formatting there. And we're going to say DXO dash search panel visible is true, of course. And I'm going to set the placeholder to contact search. Finally, what we're going to need to do is say DXO dash export, and of course enabled is true. Sounding like a broken record now. And I'm going to say allow export selected data, and I'm going to say formats is equal to Excel and PDF, just like that.
So I guess I have a question. It's my
Yeah.
own question. So for the XLSX export, we're using Excel.js, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you, okay. And then the PDF, are we able to generate that client side?
Yeah.
Or is it the browser? Okay. So is it, okay, that makes sense, sorry.
Yeah, so I'm
So
not going
usually,
to
I mean, a lot of our,
yeah, go ahead.
actually, I wasn't going to say much. I was just going to say that maybe usually our customers are used to doing PDF generation on the server side, but here this I think this PDF format option is something like the browser print functionality almost. So it's done all client side so far, right?
Yeah, so the packages that we would use are one called Excel.js and like it's like JS PDF or something like that. I'm not gonna install the packages in this case, but we have a very easy demo here. And so just quickly to answer the question in the chat, um, I'm not going to add it from the remote source in this case. However, if we jump back to our template here, and if you click on this source code, it'll take you here. And if we jump to this TypeScript file, we can see down here, we're using this data source. So this is pretty much exactly how you do it. So you just copy this code and in this case, we're using this service called get contacts, but you could just put in your, API request just straight into here. And this data source, I'm essentially using it the same way as this data variable here. So it would be data equals data source. And we would import the data source up here. And that's how we would get it from remote source. So for the doc format, we only support the Excel and PDFs, I believe. If we jump here to our export here, so the idea is that it's just a table, so there's not many options, and plus we have to use a separate exporter. So for example, if we see here, we're using this workbook from Excel.js. Hopefully you can see that. So to export, we have to use separate packages. But we can also do like images. So if I click this, I can actually just save it. And you could just kind of go here to on our website js.devexpress.com, go to demos, data grid, and export, and you can see the PDFs here. So yeah, but you could do, I mean, it basically will export everything in the grid, but because it's a table, we can't really do it to other file formats just because there isn't the support in terms of the packages that are out there. I mean, I'm sure you could come up with a custom solution as well, if you wanted to. Like for example, if you want to output to a text file or something, I'm sure that would be possible. It would just take a lot more work. But yeah. So if we just jump back to our app here, we can see that since I added those that little export thing right there, we have the options here. And because I added Excel and PDFs, we have options to export all data and the selected rows. Of course, it's not working because I didn't want to add those packages unnecessarily. Ultimately, we're here for the UI. But if we jump back to our template here, this is what's nice about the templates is you can come here and test different things without having to actually write them and write all the code out. So for example, if I hit this, I say export all data to PDF, it does work. And I could just hit save. And if I just click on that, we can see how it looks. So it'll just basically provide us a table with all that information. However, it can be customized like we see in that demo where we offer some customization options here. And also I added this header filter. So we have these and these search options here. So we have the search panel up here. We of course have this column chooser. So this column chooser, I don't think I've shown it before, but it's really cool. Like for example, if we want to hide this ID, we can just drag it in there. Or if we want to hide, say, this phone, we can just drag it in and now they're gone. But if we click on the column chooser again, we can go ahead and put them back. So it's a really cool feature of the data grid where we can basically just pick and choose what we want to see. And so yeah, so now what I need to do.
I wanted to actually
ahead.
ask you while you were at that screen, if we have a filter enabled and we're exporting, does the filter get respected on the export? So for like only, I know that selection, do we have to select the items, or does filtering apply as well? I'm not really sure, but it's not a super important question anyway.
I believe we can do it either way. So for example, if I filter this to just commission, let's see if it works. Yeah, so it will just put out what we have in there right now. So it respects the filtering. Yeah, I mean, that's a cool feature too. So yeah, I'll go ahead and close that. So basically just whatever it's showing is what it'll put out. So that's nice.
And on that screen as well, I wanted to ask,
Yeah.
that ellipsis, do we get that for free at the top, at the very right of the row? Is that like the hidden columns or something?
Yeah, so those are just whatever is overflow. So if it was, so for example, it's just too long, too big for the screen, so it just overflows automatically. If we had, in this example, if we had, the columns where they could be adjusted automatically, it would shrink them to a certain point and it wouldn't overflow like this. But in this case, we have it set so it does overflow. So yeah, that's just another cool feature of the grid. For example, if it was like a mobile device, then it would make it look a little bit better. Yeah, but in this case, as we can see, it's not overflowing here. But I mean, if I zoom in like a lot, yeah, just see how it just shrinks and makes it bigger, each column. So that's just because I set that property of column auto width. And it's just my preference. I think it makes it look a little bit better. So yeah, so just to jump back here, under this DxO-export, I'm gonna go ahead and add a toolbar. And so inside this toolbar, I'm gonna say DXI-item. I'm gonna say location is before, so it's gonna be at the beginning of the toolbar. And inside here, I'm going to give it a div with a class name of grid header. And I'm going to say contacts grid. And I'm going to jump into my SCSS file here. And I'm going to say .grid header, and I'm going to give it a font size of 2EM, just like this. So it's a little bit bigger. And if we go back, we can see now we have this header right here that says contacts grid. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and paste this. However, I'm going to get rid of that for the location. Oops, it's going to be after. And because we have specified a toolbar, we have to go back in and add some of those options. For example, like the export button and that kind of stuff, just because we're customizing it. So we have to do it manually. So right in here, I'm going to say locate in menu is auto. Show text is in menu. Widget is DX button. And I'll put this on a new line so it's easier to read. Options are going to be, and this is going to be quite long, I'm going to add some braces in here. Text is going to be refresh. The icon is going to be refresh, and this is one of our DevExpress icons. And the on-click function is going to be refresh, just like this. And I forgot to add commas there, so I'll fix that quickly. And the styling mode is going to be text, just like that. And we're getting this error because we don't have that function, so I'll go ahead and create that right now. So right here under, and we actually don't need that constructor, so I'll go ahead and get rid of that. So I'm going to go ahead and create this function here, and I'm just going to say this dot data grid dot instance dot refresh, just like this. And we have to uncomment this view child up here for it to work. And I forgot one thing. We have to add that override right there just so it doesn't throw that error. And this should be working where we have that refresh button right here. So if I hover over it, it doesn't show us the text. So basically it'll just show us that icon. So that's nice there.
So just so I understand, what's the refresh doing? Is it actually pulling the data again, or is it
Yeah, so if this
doing
was
something else?
if this was coming from a data source, it would actually resend that request and basically literally just refresh the data. So for example, if you had some other user somewhere modifying that data and you didn't want to refresh the page, you can just refresh the grid within the page. So for example, if you had like a text box or something that you were filling out and you didn't want to lose that information that you had already written, you could just hit the refresh button on the grid and it would just refresh that data alone. So for example here, if we hit that, it's almost instantaneous. I mean, you can't really see it, but it would take maybe like a couple seconds if you had like, 10,000 entries or something like that had to refresh. But again, because of the pager, it really increases performance because it doesn't need to load all the data at once. And what we can also do is we can have server-side loading of each of these pages. In other words, we can get the page back from the server rather than having to get all the data at once. So it'll make another request when we move between pages. So if we had like massive pages, it would really speed it up. That being said, there's not much information here. Plus, this is just local data that's it's stored in memory. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and add these other items quickly. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste these in the interest of time. So what we have here is we have this separator. So this is just the div, the class name is separator. So this is just gonna separate that stuff out for us. We have the export button here. We have another separator here. We have the column chooser button. And we have the search panel. So if we go back to our app, we can see all of these here. And of course, with those separators that I added, you can put in whatever you want in the CSS or just add like a pipe, something like that. I just put them in there just so we can see how it works. I'm not adding anything, so it'll look like it's just without separation, but I think it looks fine for now. So again, we have the search panel back. So for example, if I search for one of these entries like this, we'll see it search. And we have the column chooser again. We have the export functionality and the refresh button. So we've customized this toolbar. We can reorder these items as well. So if we want to, move one of them around, we can do that. So that's just a nice, cool feature of how we can customize that, make everything look exactly how we want. And that's a really good point too, because with our grid and all of our components, really, we offer really great sort of default styling. And also everything can be customized if you want. So that's just like a cool little feature where we can just make our own toolbar when we want to, and it integrates very easily into the grid. And so I'm going to customize our columns next. So we can have custom columns and we can modify the data inside them, make it look like how we want, all that good stuff. So I'm going to say column data field is equal to name. The caption I'm going to change to a name with a capital N. I'm going to change the sort order to ascending by default. I'm going to change the hiding priority to 5. And as you asked before, Arg, with the way we hide the various columns, we can also adjust it so we can specify which columns get hid first and which ones stay. So for example, this one's the priority is going to be 5. Other ones I'll change to a higher priority. And so I'm going to add a min width, which is going to be 150. And the cell template is going to be name, and I'll just save that and we'll get to that in a second. But if we jump back, we're going to see we're going to lose everything. So we're going to lose all our data, and it's just going to say name. And that's just because we changed that cell template and we haven't created that yet. So I'm going to jump back here, and I am just going to copy some of this over so we can see it. So I added this column called company, status, assigned to, and phone. And for this phone, I have this customized text here, and I have this customized phone cell. And so with this is just a function, and we haven't created it yet. And so that's why we're getting this error here. And with this email, it will automatically format. I believe in our sample data, the email is just a string, so we don't really have to worry about formatting for it right now. However, with the email, we can just have a type, I think, something like that. It's very simple. And so we'll go ahead and customize this phone thing. We'll add that really quickly. So I'm just going to come up here, add a function called format phone, add a value, which is going to be a string or a number, just like that. And I'm going to add a return string value dot replace, and I have to add some regex in here, so bear with me on that. And it's going to be a D3, just like this, and another D4, and it's going to be a / comma, and what we're going to replace it with, which is going to be a 1, 2 dash 3, just like this. So that should be correct.
So those three capture groups, they're going to be the area code and then the 7 digits in the US. And so
Yep.
That's what we're expecting, right?
Yep. And I believe I did it right. It looks right to me. So it should be just regex. I mean, it's, everyone hates it, but we can't really ignore it. So, it's one of those things. And so for this customized phone cell function, I'm just going to give it a type of any because it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to use a ternary here. And it's going to be this.format phone. And I'm going to pass in the value or undefined. So just like this. And if we jump back, this will take care of that phone number formatting here. So we can see that. However, see how we still have this name? It just says name here because we haven't customized that cell yet. And also here it says, under status, it says cell status. So we have to just take care of those two quickly. So the way we customize those cells is very cool. And what we're going to do is just jump in here, add a div, a *dx template, and it's going to be let cell info of name, just like this, and the class is going to be name template. And if I open up this div, I'll add another div in there, one more div, 2 braces there, cell info dot data dot name, just like this. And under this, I'm going to say another div, and I'm going to give it a class of position, two braces again, and it's going to be cellinfo.data.position. And so these are going to be the name and the position, and they're just going to put the name on top of the position, and we'll see how that looks in a second. And I just added two divs here because it'll put it on the new line. So if we jump back, see how it says it now it's the name with the position below it. So that's more how we have it here in this template there. And I more or less just copied the template.
And is that of that you're using referring to the name property of the row, or is it referring to something else?
Yeah, so it's let cell info of name. So if I jump back here, see how this column here, the data field is name. So it's referring to that same data field. If I jump into this contacts, see how we have the same thing here, name. So I'm just keeping everything consistent. And so we can reference between them easily. So yeah, and this is just kind of this template kind of syntax there that we kind of have to use. And so what we want to do is we want to also add it for that status. So it's going to be another DX template, and this one's going to be let cell info of cell status, just like this. And inside here, I'm going to add a span with a class of status and status dash double braces cell info dot data dot status, and inside here it's going to be that same thing. So the idea is it's going to be the class is going to be status and status dash whatever that status is, and so we can modify that in our CSS easily, and we can have different looks for different statuses. So if I jump back here, we can see we do have the status back. So that's nice. And what we need to do to make it look exactly how we want is we need to just update the CSS. So just down here, I'm going to say dot position is as a color of, let's just say 999 for a gray. And we can see down here, this position right here has a darker color and it's smaller. Or I should say we can make it smaller if we want, but I'm just going to leave it the same. And so now to deal with the status, we have to do a little bit of complicated kind of advanced CSS. And so we just had to say display is going to be inline flex. Align items is going to be center. And we need to say and we have to scope it before, and the content is just going to be empty quotes. The display is going to be block. The width is going to be 10 pixels. The height is also going to be 10 pixels. The border radius is going to be 50%. And the margin right is going to be 5 pixels. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to say and dash salaried before is going to be a background color of green. We're going to say and terminated before is going to be a background color of red. And commission before is going to be a background color of light blue. And that's it for our CSS. So essentially what's happening here is we're modifying the CSS for each individual type. So it's going to be salary, terminated, or commission in our data. And if we jump back to our HTML here, we can see how we're adding the status dash, whatever it is, class name. And this is just going to display it in the grid. And so with this class name is how we're able to modify the colors. And this, what it's basically just going to do is create a dot for us. So as we can see here, we have this dot next to where it says salaried. In this case, we have it says terminated. And if we find one that says commission, it's that light blue color. So that's essentially how we modify these cells and make it look pretty much exactly how we have here. And yeah, so that more or less wraps it up for today. If anyone has any questions, leave it in the chat. And yeah. And it looks like our egg has frozen. So that's okay. I'll just go ahead and say bye for now. And thanks for watching. Make sure to watch next week. And yeah, thanks.
Great. I did have a question. I was hoping to ask it because I'm not so great at CSS, and I was hoping to understand when you have before in your CSS selector, does it have to do with it being the this circular button being on the left hand side, or is the circular left hand button there because we have a block?
I believe it's the first one. I'm not a
Okay,
CSS
so
expert. I just know how to do it, and that's how you do it.
So just out of curiosity, if we change it to after, would it appear on the right hand side? I mean, I really don't know. I think this is uncharted territory.
I don't think so. Or it might, as we'll see. No, it just won't show it.
Yeah, CSS is still the dark arts.
Yeah, it really is. Okay. Any other questions?
All right. Well, that was actually really interesting. I mean, I don't think that I've ever had a complete breakdown in terms of what our CLI templates do. I mean, usually, you're kind of futzing around with trying to get our components to work in an existing Angular app. You're not really making use of all the goodness we provide out of the box. So it's cool to actually have a complete run through of kind of using a component you're probably going to be using somewhere in your Angular app and getting the full advantage of things like cell templates and our adaptive layouts and all that goodness. So that was really cool.
Yep, pretty good.
So
All right.
I also wanted to mention, so if you do you need to actually install our products to get that, or is that just on npm that you could just go ahead and install that CLI tool immediately?
You can go ahead and install it and try it out. If I jump into the console here, we see we have this message. So it says we don't have a license key. So to avoid this message in your production app, which will, cause us to not be too happy, you want to have a license, of course. When it comes to personal use and just for testing purposes, you're free to use our products, our JavaScript products, as you wish.
Great. And I just want to add on top of that that when you use a license key, it's valid for you, your account, and the version. And I'm saying that only because yesterday we released the EAP for our next major release, which is going to be around June, but we have the EAP now to universal subscribers. So you could use 24.1. If you do use 24.1, it's going to be a different license key than what you're using for 23.2 right now. So just an FYI. And another thing, just again to reiterate, we've said it before, but the license mechanism does not make any network requests. So you're not talking to DevExpress servers. That makes it vulnerable to being gamed and being hacked because it's running totally in browser. But we think it's worth it. We think that we want to be flexible with users. So we want to stay out of the way. You don't have to make network requests to our server, but you do need to pass in this license key. And the license key that you have to use is available from the download manager when you pick a version. So when you pick your version, it says this is the license key that you have for your account and for this version. So just FYI.
Yep, that's right.
That was. Well, thank you, Gregory. I think that was actually a big load off my mind. I personally myself, I'm kind of new to this territory entirely, so it was cool to hear exactly what is possible today in 2024 in Angular. Another thing I wanted to just mention, because Angular is kind of sometimes not at the forefront of my brain, that everything we showed today requires Angular 12 or higher. And the reason is that a couple years ago, I think in version 21, we added support for the new renderer in Angular, which was called Ivy, I think. And basically that required us to have the new minimum version of Angular be Angular 12. So as long as you're above Angular 12, I think everything we went over today should apply without any modification. So that's kind of cool. So let us know if that's the case. I'm curious to hear back.
All right, thanks.
All right. So I think that's actually everything we planned on going over today. So I think we're going to call it a day. Take care, everyone.
Bye.